to begin. Yes. So, first of all, just thank you so much for coming on, agreeing to do this. I always like to say that it takes a lot of bravery to talk about these topics, and with each person, I'm always so grateful, and the community is learning a lot. Today, we're going to be talking about the struggle with expectations and our authentic selves and how they can kind of be at odds sometimes, or sometimes it goes in our favor. So we'll be chatting a lot about it today. We're going to be kind of getting into just everything about the topic here momentarily, but the first thing I just like always to start out with is, what is Let's Talk? What is it about? In case if you're new to this show, podcast, it's all a thing. So basically, Let's Talk is a place where we could talk about the deep, hard issues that affect our community and our industry. And each month we feature a speaker who has experience, who's been around for a while, and has gone through some things. And these are usually the things that happen behind the curtain, as I like to say. So today we have Sayuri. I'm going to give you a little background about her. Hi, Sayuri. And if you haven't heard about her, or maybe you have seen her in Miami, she's been around a while. She's a Middle Eastern dance artist, a wife, and a dog mom. And she's battling being pulled in the world of dance, which is her passion and her career. You know, she has the ambition to provide for herself, her family, a decent lifestyle, and a retirement income. So a lot of our talk today will be focused on the mental health, the introvert extrovert aspect, but these are definitely also more things that you could always reach out to her about after the conversation. Leave your comments, questions. We always have fun answering them at the end. So thank you for joining us. One of the things I'd like to start with is just a little bit about your background, you know, what you're bringing to the conversation today, and just to let people know a little bit more about that.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I've been in the belly dance world for a while now. I started as a dancer, obviously learning the art, the culture, the roots, etc. And recently, a couple of years ago, I went ahead and jumped into the whole producing event. So I also did a couple of competitions, so I'm able to provide a perspective from a student. Also as a producer, someone who has competed and has gone to several big festivals around. And I also taught a little bit for a while, and then I let go of that as well. And I also did gigs for some time as well. So I think a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Yes, you've definitely, like most of us, I think we all try things and try to figure out what works for us. One of the things that I find really kind of like special and awesome about you is that you're, I think, not like the quote unquote, like that typical belly dancer, right? Like some of these, because again, today's topic is like the expectations of like, what does a successful belly dancer mean? What does that look? And I feel like this industry, like we've talked before, has some sort of picture about that. And it's not always, like, doesn't always work. So one of the things that I know you've shared is that you are introverted. Like, and I know this, you know, I've known you for a long time personally. You're introverted, and we're in such a social media look at me world. So we'll get into that a little bit. And you also battle with social anxiety and ADHD, forgive me. And I think that this is such a great angle, like just view, because there's so many friends I have and colleagues, and you as well, that are just like, I don't want to be with my video everywhere and just here, look at me, and look at that, right? And that is so good and so healthy and so okay. So I'm really intrigued about where this conversation will head for sure. I wanted to start with first, just kind of defining what are expectations, what is authenticity, what does this mean to you?
So when we talk about expectations, we talk about, I think that what people expect when you're in the belly dance world, and when they think about like, oh, what is a successful dancer or belly dancer? Like, what is the typical successful belly dancer looks like? I think the first thing that people think in their mind is the glamour, the glitzy, the body type, the followers on Instagram. You know, this person has, wow, 250K followers, and you see this person dancing in restaurants and venues every weekend, etc. I think that's kind of like the expectation of, you know, how people perceive what a successful belly dancer is. Someone traveling, teaching all the time is just dancing, 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 dancing. And that's what they eat, breathe, yeah, and live for. I think that's what the expectation is as far as the, you know, everyone.
The quote unquote belly dancer. And
Yeah.
what does authenticity mean to you? Just so we have the basis for the rest of the discussion for anyone listening.
The authenticity, you can have all that, but I think authenticity also means how well of a rounded dancer you are and what you contribute to the dance. Not always, not always that's clearly viewed to the audience, like what they can see, but also how you contribute behind the curtain on the background. There's a lot of dancers that are active on this art, but they're not necessarily on social media or in front of people doing it. And it's just so funny because sometimes you meet people at other events and they're like, well, you're a belly dancer, or oh, you're a teacher. How come I never heard of you, or etc. Well, because you know I don't have 50,000 or more followers on Instagram, etc. But I definitely do a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yes, and we will definitely get into that for sure. One of the things that, especially with this topic about like, kind of like you have the expectation, yes, of dance, 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 dance. And then there's also when you are someone that's more introverted, gets anxiety, etc. We have a lot of events in this community, right? And you're an event host, which are a producer, which is so cool how you've kind of done it. But I think one of the big things just to get people to kind of know what it's like in your shoes is talk to me about attending these big, large conventions and what does that feel like for you? Because I think that you have such a fresh perspective that I think a lot of people also share.
Sure. So I've attended large festivals in the past. And I think that mainly the reason why I did was because I was either dancing at the show or competing. That's when I attended the most. But that's also when I realized that these events were not for me. I think they're great. They're very good for networking. Some people enjoy them, and that's great, you know. But I don't think that big festivals is really for everyone. It depends what your goal is. And for me, I mean, they're not cheap. I didn't find any joy in really attending the events because the classes themselves were very big. We have like what 50 people in one room, and you see the teachers very far. Yeah, and I didn't find any joy in that, especially because my attention span is very short, and I just didn't find any joy, and I didn't find like it was a good investment in my part. It's very hard for me to stay focused when I'm in a class with 50 plus people trying to learn from a teacher. My preference really is more up close and personal. So for me, for my personality, those big festivals are just not something for me. Like it's very overwhelming. Is what I find. And that's okay. I mean, there's something for everyone.
Is it more like the amount of people and like feeling
Yes.
claustrophobic? Sometimes it gets full, or oh, okay, it's that. Okay.
Yeah, it's the amount of people. I guess also the environment is so huge. Like some of these events, most of them are hosted in like big ballrooms in hotels, and you just feel like you're just swallowed. It doesn't feel up close and personal and intimate. Again, that's it's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to spread negativity, but everybody has a different learning environment. It's what it is. And for me, it was just too overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I did not enjoy it at all. That's when I realized, well, I do not, this is not the type of events that I would like to attend. And at first I felt guilty because the expectation, right? It's hard because you want to go to these events because you want to network.
Yeah.
You also want to perform. You also want to compete to put your name out there, network with other dancers around the world because these events are great for that, really. But it's it's difficult. It's difficult to have to invest the money to go learn, but don't feel like you really leave with something from the teachings, from the classes. So I think that in the beginning, I did feel guilty that I didn't like going to these big festivals. I would literally just go compete or dance, but I would not attend the workshops. And then it was kind of like, okay, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because there is kind of this expectation. Like there's always events, big, small, all the things. There's always events. In Florida, we're very, very lucky to have so much, sometimes so many, but it's better to have that than none. And so you keep seeing all these events, and especially like you've been around a while, so you get to know a lot of people in your community, and it's kind of like you almost feel like you're expected to go. But you know what I mean? Like, would that be accurate in your view? Where you just feel like, oh my gosh, I got to be there. Like it's almost like FOMO. Sometimes some of these events, like if you don't go, you feel like you're gonna miss out. It's
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Or they won't see you there. So it's like
yeah.
I should at least go to make an appearance, because I guess for everyone, an active dancer is a dancer that you see, you know. And that's not necessarily true because I stopped taking classes a long time ago and I started taking privates with different teachers. So you might not see me in class, but I'm definitely training behind the scenes
Mm-hmm. That's very
because,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And again, it's one of those things like you just because you're not there at the event or etc., you're still a dancer. It's just you're doing a different path, like which is really still great. Private lessons are bomb, coaches are bomb, but yeah, it's not as out there in public, right?
right.
Okay, okay. Tell me about a little bit about like coming out of the well even the event but just collaborating with other organizers or dance artists, and sometimes that can be like for an extrovert that's like okay boo, like right, you just start chit-chatting, but that's not very easy or always the case or just like super comfy to do for everybody. Tell me about your experiences with that, like especially because you do have an event, you've been around for a while. Like, what is that experience like for you?
Okay, so I believe that when I reach out to other people one on one, I feel, and people have told me this a lot, that I connect very well with other people. So I don't think I have an issue when I have to reach out to collaborate. However, because I am not this top belly dancer that everyone knows in the industry, sometimes I have to kind of introduce and kind of show them what I've been doing in my community in Miami, etc., so that they know what you're being invited to or what I'm reaching out to collaborate with.
Of
So
course, yeah.
yeah, but I feel that if I reach out to other organizers or teachers, etc., people that I want to sponsor in my event, I do feel that I connect with people very well on a one-on-one level, for sure. That's
Has that,
mhm.
and I think I can agree. Like, there's this almost like this, not, I don't know if it's expectation, but yeah, if you aren't some super famous belly dancer that's around, do you feel like you have to explain yourself sometimes? Or like, I mean, you
um
say you,
thank-
how,
thankfully, Jennifer, at right now at this point, I don't think I've had to. I've introduced myself to some teachers that I want to sponsor. Obviously, my events are very small and intimate. They're not festivals. You have some really big festivals, very big names out there in the industry that people know about. Like, like everybody knows about, just saying Festival of the Nile or in Egypt, etc. So when I reach out, it's not really an event that people know about yet, especially because this is my third year hosting an event and it's not big, it's small and intimate. But thankfully, the teachers that I've reached out to and organizers to collaborate have been very open and welcoming. So I haven't had to do that yet, thankfully.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Because I would think that I don't know. I haven't come across that, but I would think that maybe if there's someone out there that want to get their name out, they would prefer to be invited to a bigger festival with a bigger audience, which is understandable, and that's okay. Um, I'm not there yet, but I don't think I want to be because I really want to keep my event small to medium and yeah, and intimate. Correct.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think's been your biggest struggle so far, whether in the performance when you were performing privately or in the event space or teaching space? What was kind of like the biggest struggle being that the expectations always like that extroverted energy. I'm here everywhere. I'm here, what's kind of like that been that deep, maybe like struggle along the way?
I think more my training is more on theater and performing on stage. I tried to do the gigging for a while, but I realized that I was not extroverted enough for that space. It was a little disappointing in that sense, but I made peace with it. I think that you in this journey you find out what kind of dancer you want to be and who you want to dance and what audience you want. Um, the gigging world, at least here in Miami, was definitely not my audience. Um, and when I taught, it was very difficult too because I wanted to teach the art, but not a lot of people were interested in the art. And that was also disappointing. So that was another disappointment. um, so I decided to just, I'm just going to dance and learn what I want to learn. And I'm just going to just focus on performing to an audience that is interested and who's going to appreciate the art itself. So yeah, I think that was a struggle, but that's how you find the type of dancer you want to be and what is it that you want to focus on. And I think that's why, like you mentioned in the beginning, I've done a little bit of everything. I've competed, I've taught a little bit, I've also done gigs. I've been, a student in class, and now I'm more into the event producing, which I really, really enjoy.
Yes, yes, for sure. I know recently there was an event, a small intimate event with Yasmina Ramsey, and it was hosted by Mesh. And tell me a little bit about that. That was like on Zoom. It was like a very, very intimate kind of thing. What was that like?
So that was yeah. So Jasmina Ramsey, she was supposed to come to Miami, but she was not able to. This was supposed to be a small intimate weekend with her. Unfortunately, she was not able to, so everything was changed to Zoom. I hate Zoom. I'm not a fan of it. Again, for me, it's always up close and personal. I don't enjoy classes in Zoom. It's just not the same for me. However, the way that this was structured was we all got together. It was like six of us. We all got together in a studio, and they had her do the Zoom class live, but in the class with everyone.
Okay.
This goes back to my whole attention span. For me, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it was a lot of hours. It was like 6 hours every day. That was very difficult for me. I hadn't danced so long in a very long time, but it really felt amazing after I did it. I felt like, wow, I accomplished this. And I really felt like it was just something that I had been missing for a while. Because I used to be in a troupe as well. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I danced in a troupe for a while as well, and I hadn't felt like I was really part of something until I took that class with Jasmina Ramsey, and we learned this whole choreography in a weekend. I was dreading it at first because I don't like Zoom, and I really don't like spending so many hours dancing, I feel as the type of person that I am when I'm doing any task, even if it's at work, I need to take breaks to decompress.
Ah, okay.
Yes, yes, because it's very exhausting for me to just do just to socialize or even workshops. Like I feel like after an hour and a half, I need to step out and take like a 10-minute break to kind of decompress and then get back to it.
Mm,
Um,
makes
yeah,
sense.
it's very exhausting, at least for me. I know that a lot of people with social anxiety have that issue. Um, social events are very exhausting, even if it's just for an hour or two. But once you're done with that event, it's kind of like you're drained.
Mm-hmm.
So I was drained at the end of that event, but I also felt good that I was able to go through with it and accomplished the choreography, and I just felt like I was part of something again. Like, wow, I miss dancing in a troupe and working together and collaborating.
Yeah. I think what you just said about like the energy expenditure, because again, like my partner, and I don't know why I always kind of end up partnering with introverts, guys, but he's very much the same. And we refer to it as like his battery. And with my introvert friends as well, like one of my besties, she's ADHD, anxiety, PTSD. She's like the best. But she also has that battery. And it's something that I see it, but it's just like when you're not living, experience it all the time every day, you kind of just forget, right? Like it's like you don't see it all the time. So I think that's so interesting what you said about kind of like that parallel, even with like with work. You do the task or the thing and you need that time to breathe to kind of center and try to gain a little energy. And then usually when that event or whatever that thing is, you need like time to like a lot of time, like a day to recover, or at least that's the fear of my partner. He's just like, if I did something over the weekend, the next week I'm not doing anything. Like he's just recovering. Is that something that you feel as well, whether it's gigging or teaching or like workshops like this, or is it more so one than the other? What is that like in your point of view?
No, I definitely need to recover. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. Especially like for me, I mean, I have a job, and my job is not necessarily a 9 to 5. I am a property manager of a luxury building with 20 plus employees, and I'm always on call.
Mm.
So yeah, so I don't have this kind of job where after 5 p.m. when you clock out, you disconnect. Like that's not my world. So the weekend is the only time that I really have to decompress. So
Yeah.
if I have to spend an entire weekend dancing, I'm gonna come back to work and I'm gonna be super drained. And that's very difficult for me because I do feel that I do need at least a day in between to be able to recover. So when I try to plan any event that I have, and this is not just dance, this is my social life, I make sure that I don't spend every minute of the weekend um, doing something that requires socializing because I'm just going to be in a very bad mood for the rest of the week because I didn't decompress.
I see. Yeah, I get that. I get that. How is it that you have this job that's so energy taxing? How do you like cope with this? You know, and it's like it parallels with belly dance. Like belly dance is so energy like expenditure usually, right? This is like again the expectation versus reality, and it's so intriguing to me. So how are you? You have like a wild energy taxing job. Like I have a job where I'm like I'm done at 3. I'm my own boss. So like how do you handle that every day?
Well, ironically, I do well on very high pressure jobs like this um, because the funny thing, the irony of all this is that if I do have a 9 to 5 and I don't feel like I'm being challenged at work, I get bored.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And in property management, there's always something different every day. So it keeps it very interesting. I always feel like I need this stimulation, whether it's from the job or for dance, where I feel like I'm accomplishing something. Otherwise, I get bored.
Yeah.
So I would say that I'm a very high functional anxious person. So I'm anxious, but I'm functioning in high levels at all times. But I need to take that time to decompress. If I don't take the time to decompress, I won't function.
Got
So
it.
I need that. That's a
Yeah.
must.
No, totally. I got that. So, okay. Trying to get, so that all our listeners kind of get different facets of the anxiety, the battery, the energy expenditure, and how you're kind of high functioning, but anxiety. I think that's so, what a like dichotomy, right? But it works. So,
Yeah, I mean it works. I think just people need to stop, and I realize this, sabotaging yourself so much, trying to feel guilty because you can't do it all. And I think that's the main important thing. Um, everybody's different. Everybody has a different threshold.
yeah.
And we were talking about that the other day, how there's people that are energetic from morning all the way to night, every single day of their, of their lives, and they're very productive. Everybody has a different threshold. People who are socially anxious, we may seem like an extrovert, and we are, because I do like meeting new people and socializing. I don't hate it, but once I'm done, um, I'm drained and I need to decompress, which is the reason why I cannot do full weekend events. I wish I could, I just cannot. Um, and then it could not just be because of that, but it could also be you have other responsibilities. So I guess one of the main things, I guess, for listeners who are, struggling with this as well, is just don't sabotage yourself so much. You don't have to be everywhere at the same time. Um, you could take your breaks and still be a dancer. Like, don't feel that because you're not in social media, because people are not seeing you in class or etc., that you're not an active dancer, because that's definitely not true. um, and that's, I feel like that's for me one of the main things. And yes, one of the struggles that I have, because you asked me earlier, is trying to bring attention to my brand, um, and not being to be in social media so much. So it's like I have a brand now that I'm an event producer, which I
Yeah.
really want to get it out there to let people know what I'm doing. But it's very hard when you're not so active on social media, because nowadays everything is social media. So that for me is very difficult, having to schedule time to make a post 4 or 5 times a week for that. So
Yeah.
that for me is definitely a struggle. And I'm not an extrovert. Like, I'm not constantly on Facebook or Instagram making videos or talking about my event, which I should be, but it's very difficult sometimes, because life is demanding and you're being pulled from different directions, and you need, yeah. That's
Priorities,
definitely one of the
energy,
struggles.
time. Yeah. I think that's another expectation that you're hitting right on the mark. It's like this unset expectation that, I mean, in my world, in my like day mogul career, social media is not everything in my job, but like I'm one of the rare few. Most others feel the pressure to do the reels and the videos and all these posts and like do the stories, and like it's kind of, I'm an extrovert and it's like overwhelming. So I can't even imagine, you know what I mean? And it's just like you're expected to be everywhere all the time and like posting everything. And even as an extrovert, I'm very private. Like, I don't put very much about my like daytime life, like my non-dance life on my dance page. It's just going to be dance only. But nowadays there's even more, like people want to get to know you, like behind the brand, and like what do you like, and like they're asking personal questions. But you're just like, I'm just trying to be an artist, like some people love it and they share it all, and like that works for them. But there is like this expectation of like sharing yourself on top of sharing the business that seems to be more prevalent in the last few years, particularly. And that is not realistic sometimes, especially if you're working full-time job, you're a parent, you have dogs, you have all these responsibilities that are pulling at you constantly.
Yeah. Yes. And it's funny you mentioned that because doing these contents on Facebook and on Instagram, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's you're if you're doing them very well, you're editing work, right? That takes time. Um, and it's funny that you mentioned the job thing because for me, it's also very difficult because at some point I had to separate my dance page from my career page, being that I'm a property manager and I work with a lot of board members and residents and I have employees. It was very important for me itself to make sure that I'm able to not hide but separate my career life from my dance life and not commingle those two. Um, Having a stage name does help a lot. Nobody really in my job, or I never talk about it in my career either, what I do outside of my job. But unfortunately nowadays, you have to kind of keep it professional. Otherwise, they may look at you differently, depending on the industry that you're in.
Depends,
Some
yeah.
people, yeah, some people it doesn't affect them, but for others, it may. And I'm in my type of line of work. I have a lot of people that are constantly looking at my background and my experience. So in the industry, so
Yeah.
that for me was, it's very important to keep separate.
Yeah. We have an episode with Diana where she shares it all and it works for her in her industry. And I'm just like, wow, I wish, like I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's just what's authentic to you and what you need for your sanity, like whatever that might be. I just find it fascinating, some people can like blur them together so easily. And I'm kind of like you where I need total separation, but that's just what works for us, something also talking about like some of the things that maybe come up or expectations. And I love how you were mentioning a lot about like supporting behind the scenes. I think there's so much behind it, even for the people that are like super famous belly dancers, right? They have 1 million followers, but there's so much behind the scenes that goes into any one thing. And there's a lot of it that people, unless if you've done it, you would have no idea of how much has to go on behind the scenes just to do one aspect of anything in this industry. And if you don't show it with documented pictures, reels, video, it's almost like the assumption is that nothing is happening, which you've alluded to, and I think that can be very problematic because it's easy to talk about the successes on social media, but like social media isn't quote unquote real because of that, because it's very few that will actually put like, this ish was hard. This ish gives me anxiety. This ish was like, I can't handle, like it's not too many people that post that type of stuff. It's also very personal too, right? So it kind of gets difficult in a landscape and at a time right now. It's just a trend where people just want to know more and more and more and more, inside, just outside of business to like even fathom all that. But supporting behind the scenes, I just love that. Like you are definitely the example of someone that's always been around. Like you've never just, to me, like not just completely disappeared, because you always were training behind in the privates, doing little things. You can't do it all the time. I mean, you have 1,000,001 things that you do, but you've kept it always as part of your life. And there's a lot of people, hi Jihan, there's a lot of people that probably are very much behind the scenes heroes and warriors, and they're not getting the recognition. And maybe it's time that they do get recognized. It's like, how do we bridge that gap in such a visual social media, it's like frenzy world, it's It's quite an interesting thing. Oh,
Yeah.
Tabitha, hi. Tabitha says, thank you for your genuine soul. I'm definitely feeling and honoring the decompression time in my 30s. Oh, yes. Let's talk a little bit now about mistakes. Like, we are all not perfect. We all make them. And I think it's like one of those things where you just grow so much. It's like great to make mistakes and to do failures and to, like, it's, you learn the best. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned a little bit about feeling guilty before, about not sabotaging yourself. Talk to our listeners a little bit about that and what that's like.
Yes. So yes, one of the mistakes that I did early on was definitely sabotaging myself and feeling guilty because I didn't enjoy large festivals. Um, I also don't enjoy I love dancing in theater on stage, but I don't enjoy the process of waiting, like the day of. Like sometimes you're required to be there super early, hours before
Ah.
you go on stage.
Mhm.
That for me is so torture for me.
How come? Tell me. Why?
I don't know. I grow very impatient, right? So sometimes you have to wait um behind the curtains and stuff like that, like hours or 4 hours, or sometimes you're required to be the day of. Everybody has to, call roll time, right? Like, okay, so please be there at 3 p.m. The show starts at 7, right? Like for me, having to spend so many hours waiting and waiting, it just gets me so anxious. And we go back to the thing. I don't like it. I just wish I can be there an hour before, dance, get it done with, and we're good. That was also very for me feel guilty because then I'm like, okay, am I can I do this? Am I able to do this? Um, is this for me, etc. Those kind of questions, like maybe this is not for me, or the festivals, etc. So you have to find what works best for you and what you feel more comfortable with. That that doesn't mean I don't do it. I still do it once in a while. I just don't enjoy the waiting is what it is. I don't enjoy the waiting. um it gets me anxious.
In
it,
those moments of anxiety and self-sabotage, what's been things that have helped you get clarity or get out of it or find your authentic voice on like what to do? What has helped?
I think that what's really helped me is just try to do things that I'm gonna feel more comfortable with, you know. Um, things that don't require um so much having to such a big commitment, you know. Like right now, one of the things that I did that I realized I don't think I'm gonna do this ever again.
What?
Is I'm traveling to Spain this weekend to dance at Nesma's Enta Omri show,
Ah,
um,
yeah.
which is wonderful. It's a beautiful show that she puts up out of so many that she does. But the entire course was on Zoom from Spain. And that was the most challenging thing for me. And, a lot of pressure goes into that as well because I don't really like doing anything via Zoom. Um, and I'm very honored to be part of it. But at the same time, I don't think I want to do that again. I think that I want to be present. If there's an event like that ever again, I want to be able to do it with the teacher present, not via Zoom, etc. So you have to learn how to not put yourself into situations that you're not going to feel comfortable.
Okay. Being
Um,
selective.
yeah, just be very selective of what you do, whether that's in doing big festivals or just doing events that are very intimate or anything like that. So being able to avoid the situation so that you don't feel guilty afterwards, and just end up regretting it.
Yeah.
So
Not doing just because it's like FOMO or like what everybody does, but like what makes sense
yes,
for
that is
your
so important. Yes, don't do it just because you want to. Don't do it just because you want to please someone else or a certain dancer or, and there's so many other ways that you can support an event without having to attend. Like, I can't express this anymore or emphasize it. Like, if I'm not going to attend an event, but I really want to support, a simple share goes a long way.
Yeah.
Like every time someone shares something about my event, like I am so deeply grateful to that, because I think people take that for granted sometimes. So don't feel like you have to, the only way to support is by attending an event. Maybe you want to sponsor another dancer. Hey, I can't go, but here's, I don't know, $50 because I want to support you and I support what you do. Or I can't go, but I'll definitely share it on my page or etc. Like that really goes a long way.
That's
It
it.
really does.
Yeah, that's so, so true. Again, there's so many behind the scene things, and that's like perfect examples. There's always been so many beautiful, like you said, the sponsors sponsoring like another dancer. I went through that. I went through an event where I really wanted to go. It was crazy expensive. And then one dancer couldn't come. I asked the like event producer, hey, is there anything like I can work, half of it, blah, 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 and like, or for another dancer. And they're like, you asked at the right time. I was like, oh my God. Like the impact that it can make. It's pretty cool. And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's very amazing. I don't know about other organizers, but I'm grateful for the really small things that people do when it comes to my events. And I'm telling you, even a simple share for me it's big.
it's
Like
great.
I don't forget those things. I don't.
Yeah. It's about, there's this thing about like, sometimes because you feel like that pressure, that anxiety, like to do these things. And sometimes do you ever feel like you sabotage yourself and you're thinking about it so much before you even go, and then like you psych yourself out of going? Because
Yes.
that's what one of my besties
Yes.
goes through
Yes,
all the
I
time.
ruminate. So you ruminate. So if you think about it too much, like sometimes sometimes I want to attend an event, whether it's a hafla or whatnot. Um, Sometimes the fear of just socializing with other people, if you think about it too much, like you ruminate over and over and over, you could end up changing your mind, and that happens to me a lot. That's why I try not to make commitments too ahead in advance, because I could talk myself out of not going, and because it also depend on my mood, on my energy that day, and I know it sucks. So I learned very on, I'm not going to commit to something, because if I don't end up going, then it's just going to make me look bad.
Yeah, like you flaked or you're no show
Right,
or
right. And
yeah.
nobody
Okay.
knows really the real reason behind it, right? It may make you look unreliable.
Yeah.
Um, so if I make a commitment to do something, if I say it, I am like, that's my word. But very early on, I learned not to if I'm not sure about it. But yes, that happens. It happens a lot, and not just in dance, but just in your everyday world, or like even events with your family, etc. It's happened to me, and it just makes you end up feeling guilty afterwards, because man, you're like, oh man, I should have gone. I said I was gonna go, and I didn't end up going, right? But nobody knows how you're feeling that day, or why you didn't end up going, or what your battery was that day, etc.
Yeah. That's true. There's a lot of like the internal versus what people see. So you could almost, like as an event producer myself, sometimes there's people that in the past several times have like, let's say bought a pass and they don't go and they consistently will like just not come. And then I'm like, I know that from other, like again, my bestie is so similar to you. And I'm like, okay, I think this is like social anxiety. I think they psych themselves out. Sometimes I'll write a message like, hey, you're missed. Like, if you do, like, if you're feeling better. And so they're like, no, I just, I'm not feeling it. I'm too tired. All these things happen. And I'm like, okay, no worries. Like, it's good. Like, it's something that where if you don't understand, like, I didn't understand in my 20s until I started knowing a lot more deeper introverted side of things. But I didn't know, and I would think those people were flaking, or they were unreliable, or they were unprofessional because I didn't have the experiences, with people that they struggle with that all the time, and it's like so okay. It's just if you don't know, some people will assume, and don't assume. Don't assume anything.
Yeah, that happened to me in the beginning when I was doing competitions where you're required to purchase a VIP or full pass, etc. That was definitely me. It was just going, competing, and gone.
Peace.
I did not want to be in those big rooms with 50 plus people and then the teachers like all the
I
way in the front
think
of the
you
room.
are. There we go. Now you're back. You're kind of your internet froze. Can you repeat that again?
I did not want to be in that big room with 50 plus people and the teacher all the way in the front. Like I did not enjoy that environment. So
If you, out of curiosity, if you were all the way in the front and all the 50 people behind you, or 40 people, so you don't like see them, does it change anything from your perspective, or is it just like, I know there's still 50 people, and even though I'm in the front, like it just still is a lot of energy?
it probably
How does that work?
it probably worked in the beginning, but then some of these teachers, and I mean it's okay, you have to. They rotate. So the people from the front move to the back, etc., and that's it. Like
I
like
see.
my
That's so, and usually they
attention.
rotate because they're trying to get the people that can't see in the back and the front, but that is so interesting. There almost has to be like, okay, y'all that need to stay in the front, like stay in the front. Everybody else, like people like me, like rotate your asses to the back. Like,
Yeah.
right? Okay. No, that's super helpful because I think there's so many dancers that can totally empathize and feel the same way as you. And sometimes you notice, like, why aren't they rotating? And you could easily assume, like, they just want to be in the front. You know what I mean? Like, the things that people assume all the time are just always hilarious. And we're human, right? Like, we're going to make mistakes. But these conversations, I think, help so many. And for me, are always really great reminders when I hear perspectives on stuff like this. Tell me about a bit of another mistake, maybe like in your gigging days, because I know you said that that's something you're like, for me, that was not my vibe. Tell me a little bit about that experience and what you learned through it.
So my experience in the gigging world was, I would say, very disappointing. In the sense that, I mean, I enjoy dancing. I just didn't like what I had to conform to.
Tell me more.
Especially here, yeah, here in the Miami it's the Miami vibe is just very different. I don't know what the Orlando looks like. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. But there were just a lot of things that people were requiring us or wanting us to do in the restaurant. They wanted more like wow factors, more props that were not very authentic. Like they wanted us to dance with fire, LED wings, or just um,
Everything.
sorry?
LED everything in Miami. Oh yeah.
Yes, yes. And I just didn't feel very comfortable with those props, especially fire. And I tried it, but I did not like it. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it either. My favorite props to dance with were the zills, the veil, um, and it was just not something that they wanted. They wanted more like fire, LED wings, just more of the wow factor. So that's when I learned, I don't think I want to do that. The other thing also is they wanted more, they wanted costumes that were a little bit more sexual appealing, which I did not really like either or appreciate.
When you say
um,
sexually appealing, is this like more revealing? Is this like
more revealing.
okay?
I would never forget. I did one time New Year's Eve in a restaurant. and I wore a full costume, but it was semi um it was a full piece, but you can still see some of my belly on the side. So it was not like completely covered. But that was not enough for the owner of the restaurant to complain to the booking company, that I didn't wear a two-piece costume. So
Gotcha. It was a dress with a cutout. Okay, got it.
yeah,
And they wanted the
yeah,
two piece and show the leg and show the belly and on the back and all the things.
yeah. It's actually the same dress that's on my picture on my Instagram. And it's just
Oh,
very
that's a pretty
disappointing.
dress.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just very disappointing. Um, it was disappointing. I'm like, it's just, my God, it's like, what more do they want, So I learned early on that I didn't want to conform to, what the venues and et cetera that they wanted. It's definitely not. I don't want to fit to that, to conform.
Gotcha. And
I'm
that's
not
like,
enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it. So why am I going to do it? I mean,
yeah,
I love dancing, but I'm also not going to dance with something that I don't enjoy just to appease an audience that probably has no appreciation for the arts. And I thank God I don't have to dance for money. It's not my bread and butter. Again, nothing against those that do. But, I do have the luxury to pick and choose, where and when and with who.
that's very true. That makes a difference for sure when you don't have to rely on whatever the given profession is solely, that you have a different form of income or something that can definitely, that really makes a difference because kind of like you, I've done it. I have the career in the day and I've also had some years when it was just solely belly dance and it was a very different feeling, and during those times. Different pressures. It feels different when you have to dance versus when you want to dance. It's completely different. And that's like a whole other talk.
That,
So
that
it's a
definitely is.
whole other talk. Go, go, go. And then, okay, so going to how we're like talking about like social media, but it doesn't even have to be social media. YouTube, right? YouTube's still around. It's been around. It's still huge. Just like the format of video, because we are a visual art. So with videos, tell me a little bit about maybe some mistakes and some things you learned throughout the process of how like that expectation, but how you found your authentic self and way of going through that.
Well, I do not like video.
At all, at
And
all?
I don't think I'm the only one. I think a lot of dancers are afraid of video, even recording yourself. Like I know that sometimes when you're going through the learning process as well, they always tell you, your teachers, record yourself, record yourself,
Yeah.
record yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be able to, see any mistakes and be able to learn and correct them.
Mm-hmm.
I've never liked video. I unfortunately abhor it. And that's very difficult for me. It's something that I'm working on. But sometimes sometimes people want to see the face behind the brand, right? Like Minat dance studies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like who is Sayuri?
Yeah.
Who is Minat dance studies? Who is behind that brand? So I think that's something that I need to work on, and I'm still working on trying to show more presence on social media um, with my brand. And what is it
Mm-hmm.
that I'm trying to do, right? I do consider Minot dance studies to be very different and unique than the rest of the festivals, um, in the sense that we're a non-for-profit, and what we offer is very specific topics that are not very available
Yeah, it's very
in other areas.
mm-hmm.
So I think that a mistake that I'm actively doing is
Oh,
probably not talking about it more, um, spreading that. I'm posting, but I'm not showing who's behind that brand and mission. So
mm. Do you think that
So I'm working on.
when you say,
Say that.
do you think it really is a mistake? Or do you think that it's truly affecting things? Or do you think it's more that expectation again, maybe like pressure?
That's a good one. We can't really ignore the fact that, you know, things have changed as far as with social media, like businesses, etc. I mean, social media is a good thing in the sense that it really gives you more visibility, right? It's easier now than it's been before to be able to make your business more visible to reach more people,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So unfortunately, we have to kind of adapt, even if it's just a little bit, to keep up with it. Because I don't think we're going back. I think it's just going to keep moving forward. I do feel that it is important to be able to kind of show a presence because I only do these events once a year, and I might be introduced at the end of the show as the person who put the show together, but that's the only time that people see me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's enough. So that's why I say that it's an active mistake. I'm doing this mistake right now where I feel that I need to show more face, and that's very hard for me being an introvert because I'm not constantly in front of a camera or taking pictures, etc. It's not something that I do as often because I'm an introvert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, as far as expectation, yes, because others are doing it. So people expect it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. The pressure. The pressure
Right.
versus,
If others are doing it, why are you not?
yeah. I think it'll be great to see how you materialize that and what your videos look like that feels like you. For especially for those of us like we know your real name, we know you for many years, like what that will look like and that feeling that it'll give when it does happen. Because it's
Yeah, and it's
short.
very hard. It's very hard for at least for I've learned so much from opening this non profit. It's very hard. Um, Even the upkeep of it, right? Because you're not nonprofit to the state level and to the IRS, and there's certain things that you need to comply with.
Yeah.
So it's not just doing everything you have to do to prepare to do this event, but it's everything you have to do, record keeping, right? Your finances and making sure that you're recording everything in the books because you're a nonprofit to the IRS. So if they want to audit you, you want to make sure that you're compliant. So there's a lot of things that I've learned with this nonprofit.
Yes, it's a different
It's a
beast
lot
for
of work.
sure.
It's a lot of work.
Now we've talked a little bit about some of those like mistakes and things that have gone on. Let's talk about maybe some of the solutions for the community. There's a lot of listeners that are going to be sharing a lot of the same sentiments as you. So tell me a little bit about maybe some messages and things that can help others that feel the same way you do.
So I would say that one of the things that I would tell listeners or just everybody in general is just try to understand that not every dancer wants the spotlight.
Very true.
And if that, yeah, so that doesn't make their presence or contributions any less powerful, you know? Um, just because you're not a full-time belly dancer doesn't mean that you don't have anything to offer to the community.
Very true.
And yeah, so that's very important, and I guess assumptions, right? We're no one to assume that just because you're not out there and people don't see you in events doesn't mean you're not actively contributing to the community. Especially dancers with such small followings. There's so many amazing, knowledgeable dancers out there that don't have a huge following on Instagram, but they're so knowledgeable. But not a lot of people know it. So I guess it's the whole thing with the assumptions and the social
Yeah.
So people
Social
think
media
that because
is not.
somebody has 300,000 followers or a million something, it sometimes doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're a very good entertainer, and you're dancing, but um, it doesn't mean that you're more than the other person that has less followers, etc. But
So
those are
true.
all expectations. So
So true. Oh my gosh. I think there's like examples where it's not even really a dancer that's even trained and they have millions of followers, sometimes as a belly dancer, but they have a lot of the videos and a lot of the sexual appeal. And so their audience is very different. And you see them with millions and hundreds of thousands. And it's just like, at the end of the day, you have to know what you stand for. And it's perfectly okay to not have a million fans. Like, you are still so valuable. So
right,
love that.
right, yeah, for sure.
I think
So
you also mentioned about your kind of like the attention, like the focus. And in conversation that we had like a little bit ago about like being able to focus on the teacher, like if you're at a workshop and being able to know like what you need and when you need to leave. Do you have any advice for that?
yes, so I think as someone with my type of personality, what really helps or what you can improve on is being selective of of the events and doing your research as well. I recently attended an event where I walked into that room and there were 50 plus dancers in a very small room, with not a lot of space to move around,
Mm-hmm.
and I was overwhelmed that I literally walked out. Um, as an organizer myself, I don't feel like it's very effective as far as the learning environment for people. I do want everybody to have the space to be able to dance and learn. We need to be a little bit more considerate of that whenever we're trying to get people to sign up. Like just be conscious about the space and how much people you can fit in there. Like,
Yeah.
I understand you want to make your profit, but understand that these are also people that are investing in a learning environment that's going to be effective for them. Like if the space is only for 30 or 35, like keep it that way. Don't try to fit in 60 plus people in one room and just make the learning experience just uncomfortable because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough space.
Yeah. It's definitely feels even tighter, I think, especially like if you have the anxiety and you have all this, it's gonna just not be very fun. Like, I totally see that. And then you have like my ass that's like, more people, yay! I'm like complete out of like, oh, we're closer. But it's important to hear, like, yeah, space is good, especially when you're dancing, like not hitting each other. Like, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Um, I know one of the things that, as an introvert, listening to you and like my besties and like so many of my colleagues that are very similar kind of feelings, whether it's events or gigging, teaching, etc. I think that if you're an extrovert listening to this particular podcast, that be like mindful and understanding. Don't assume, right? Because we are live in our own bubbles, and so don't, if you see like your fellow introvert, fellow like human having a little bit of panic or a little bit of anxiousness, like don't let them feel bad. Like try to like hype them up. Try to get them maybe to just take a breather, like just be understanding. I think that's always a good reminder for the community. I think you need to listen to your gut and intuition. I think that's one of the things when I listen to you, it's very prevalent. You're like, I know what I need, and you figured out when you need to go. You figured out what you'll stay for and what you'll invest in, what works for you and what doesn't. And you followed your gut. You've tried it all and you've been like, okay, no, I, this works more for me. Like, you just kind of went for your gut, even if it was against the grain of what the expectation of a successful belly dancer is. But you've been able to have your own success, and even if it's behind the curtain for a lot of what you have done in the past, you've always been around and stayed relevant. So it's something there that's taking time away sometimes is really good and it gives you clarity. If you're someone that's struggling with like, what do I need? Right? I think that's a journey we all go on, no matter how introverted or extroverted you are. And then know when to say no. I think that's a good thing. Like, know when to say no. Probably we need to say no a lot more than we think, personal and business, a lot of times. So, any last kind of words before we got into reading some comments? And if anyone has questions, leave them now because I'm about to read things. Any message for the community overall?
I think for me, for those dancers that are being pulled from many directions, just hang in there. And just like you mentioned, learn to say no sometimes. Don't try to do it all. It's very exhausting, and don't sabotage yourself. You know, you're still a dancer. We all have different lives, and sometimes life can get more overwhelming at times. Some of us disappear for sometimes, and some people come back. If needed to, if you need to take that break, don't feel guilty about it. You're still a dancer, and there's still a community out here. So those are the things that I've learned from being in the community for, I think, 15 plus years now. Some days you'll have your hip scarf hidden in a drawer, and some days you'll be able to take it out. Just hang in there, and just remember that once you're a belly dancer, always a belly dancer.
Oh, I love it. It's so true. I'm going to read a couple things here. Sayuri, I relate in so many ways. Also, ladies, I'm feeling the separation of lives. I'm currently working on this too, like between personal and the business. Thank you for, oh, I have read this one. Let me put, I ruminate a lot because I have so many commitments. I also have to accomplish for my medical profession, as well as, of course, for family. I do not want to overly compromise, then not be able to be present. Yeah. It's so easy if you fall into every expectation in this industry to get burnt out. And sometimes like, hi, I burnt out and thought I had to retire. And it was just that I was burnt out and I didn't even know I was burnt out. So there's just so much between personal and business that it can just be wild. You can make a video for you. You can make a video of the weekend. It does not necessarily have to be about you. There's nothing wrong with liking to be more backstage. If you want to show more face, someone can record you in the process. Like all the behind the scenes stuff. That's so true. Ladies, thank you both for what you do for coming. Oh, thank you. Thank y'all. And thank you, Sayuri. Thank you so much for taking your time to share your stories, your what's kind of some advice about what can help, you know, like that reminder of just being your authentic self and choosing what's right for you, despite what others and the industry, what we feel might be something that they're imposing. I really appreciate like your transparency, your honesty. It's such a refreshing take on it all about being like you're you're always a dancer, whether it's in the light or behind the curtain, you're always a dancer. Like you are valued. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me. And I don't know if Jihan is still on, but
Mhm.
also thank you for all her support.
She
She's
is. She just
definitely a
sent
big
you a
supporter.
bunch of hearts just now. All right, everyone, have a great evening. And if you enjoyed the show, it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the things. And this reel or this live will be available in Reels on Instagram shortly. All right, everyone. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.